Zeus, the king of the gods, the ruler of the sky, the one with all the power. And somehow he still couldn't stay loyal. If you look through Greek mythology, Zeus isn't just known for lightning or ruling Mount Olympus, he's known for constantly cheating on his wife. And not in simple ways either. We're talking about disguises, transformations, entire myths built around deception. And on the other side of all of this is Hera, the goddess of marriage, the literal symbol of loyalty. You'd think that would mean something, but instead their relationship turns into one of the most chaotic and uncomfortable dynamics in mythology. So let's go through it, not just what Zeus did, but what these stories actually say about power control and who ends up paying the price. Let's start with Europa. She's just a princess living her life when Zeus sees her, and instead of approaching her as himself, he turns into a white bull. Not a scary one either. A calm, beautiful, almost magical-looking bull. So of course she trusts it. She gets close, touches it, and eventually climbs onto its back. And the second she does that, it's over. The bull runs straight into the ocean and carries her away from everything she knows. That's Zeus. He doesn't ask. He doesn't explain. He just takes. And yeah, their story goes on to produce kings and important bloodlines, but if you actually look at it, it starts with deception. Then there's Leda. And somehow Zeus does the same thing again. This time he turns into a swan. A swan. Soft, harmless, beautiful, something you'd never expect to be dangerous. And from that encounter comes Helen of Troy. If that name sounds familiar, it should. She's the reason the Trojan War happens. So one of the biggest wars in mythology basically starts because Zeus decided to show up as a bird. Again, it sounds almost surreal, but the pattern is the same. Disguise, deception, consequences for everyone else. Then we get to Io. And this one is honestly just sad. She's a priestess of Hera, which should have protected her. But it doesn't. Zeus still goes after her. And when Hera starts getting suspicious, he panics. So what does he do? He turns Io into a cow. Just like that. Like that somehow fixes the situation. But Hera sees right through it. And instead of confronting Zeus, she punishes Io. Io ends up wandering the earth, constantly chased, constantly suffering with no control over any of it. She didn't choose any of this, but she's the one who pays for it. Then there's Semele. And this story feels different at first because Zeus actually seems to care about her, but even that doesn't save her. Hera steps in again, disguises herself, and plants an idea in Semele's mind. If he really is a god, ask him to show you his true form. And that sounds reasonable, right? Except it's not. Because Zeus's true form isn't something a human can survive. When he reveals it, lightning, fire, raw power, it completely overwhelms her. She dies instantly. And somehow even then the story keeps going. Because their child survives. Dionysus, a god born out of destruction. And then there's Callisto. She's a follower of Artemis, which means she's taken a vow of purity. She's not supposed to be touched at all, but Zeus finds a way around that too. He disguises himself again and breaks that boundary completely. And when everything comes out, guess what happens? She's the one who gets punished. Not Zeus. Never Zeus. She gets turned into a bear and forced to live alone in the wilderness. Eventually, her story gets turned into something beautiful, a constellation in the sky. But that doesn't erase what happened. And at this point, you start to notice something. It's always the same pattern. Zeus changes form, becomes something trustworthy, something harmless, something believable. And then he takes what he wants. And the consequences? They don't fall on him. They fall on everyone else, especially the women involved. And Hera, she sees all of it. She knows what's happening. But she can't challenge Zeus directly. So instead, her anger gets redirected toward the people who are easier to punish. And this is where these myths get uncomfortable, because they're not really about gods. They're about power, about who has it and who doesn't. Zeus represents what happens when someone has power and no one can question them. And Hera represents something just as real, what it looks like when someone is hurt, angry, and stuck in a system they can't change. These stories weren't random. They reflect the world they came from. And honestly, some of those patterns still feel familiar. So Zeus isn't just the god of the sky, he's a symbol of power without limits. And the stories about him aren't just myths, they're reminders of what happens when power goes unchecked and no one is held accountable. This is Noctira Myths, a journey through timeless legends.